Everyone. I just started the recording. We can get started here. All right. So this meeting is going to be on digital signatures for construction plan sets. This is kind of an update one to the previous webinar that we had to let everyone know some changes that are coming here, and to also recap the whole process, and lastly go over some common, I think, misconceptions that we've seen over the past couple of months. Hopefully get everyone straightened out and cleared up on what they're supposed to do. All right, so we got a lot to go through in only an hour. So it'll be Adam Bates and I will be kind of jumping back and forth on these slides here. But first, just want to start with the goal, and the goal is really just to make sure that our plan sets are in accordance to the requirements set by the State Board for Engineers and Surveyors. So I put the little paragraph out of there, the OAC, about basically the requirements for digital signatures, basically being some kind of electronic authentication process that you can tell if it's invalidated, if the data has changed. So you guys can read that. But first thing I want to do was just give a summary of all the changes that are happening to achieve this goal. So from before digital signatures to now, what are we actually changing? So first thing is that all of the non-sealed signatures on the plans are being separated to just a separate sheet. The exception there would be the director's signature and the DDD signature. Those are graphics on the title sheet that aren't digital signatures. But everything else does not have a seal with that signature is moved to a separate PDF. So basically what you can think of is if your signature has a seal with it, then it should be a digital signature. So that means it's not hand signed, it's not an e-signature, it's not an image. So the only exception to this, which we'll touch on later as well, is the professional surveyor signatures on the centerline plat sheets. Those are not going to be digital signatures, mainly because those have to be filed with the county and we have to follow the county requirements. And I don't think any county is accepting digital signatures at this time. So that's the only exception here is those plat sheets. That don't confuse that with the legend sheet. That still would require digital signatures. It's just the plat sheets. So the idea there would be, print it out, stamp it, and then you can scan it back in and insert it into your plan. All right. The last note here, just make sure that the signatures are valid. That's kind of the whole point. Make sure that the PDF hasn't been modified after a signature has been applied. All right, so some other changes that are happening or have happened is the right-of-way plans were separated to a separate PDF. This is really just to try to manage needing to re-sign or not re-sign as much. So separating the right-of-way out was one way we could kind of help handle that situation. So with that, the right-of-way plans no longer contain the overall sheet numbering. So you see there's a little screen grab where the last bottom part is just blank. We also indicated to add a prefix OHDOT to the subset. And don't forget, you still would have to call out the right-of-way on the title sheet, right? It's still part of the plan. So it still needs to be called out on that title sheet. The last change here is, since we are separating out these parts of the plan to separate PDFs, we still need a way to contain all of those sheets into to one file. And so we're going to do that through PDF package or portfolio, depending what software you're using. You can think of this as a zip file but instead of a .zip extension, it's a .pdf extension. So that is how we're going to keep all of these individual PDFs that we just broke apart into one.
Oh, so pretty. That's so pretty.
So let's mute everyone here. So those are kind of summary of the changes to achieve the goal that we're trying to get to. So a little bit on when. This took place back in the January DRC update. The L&D Vol.3 was updated to call out the requirement of digital signatures. The real estate manual was updated. Released a new guidelines for electronic design deliverables in there, so that the plan set requirements were in there, and you can see there's a little screenshot with the April 27th, 2023 letting date was added in there. So that's where everything kind of took effect here. But we did make a couple changes since then, and so those changes are going to go into effect with the next DRC update. And the main thing is that before this next DRC update, the DDD or the District Deputy Director signature was still called out as needing to be digital signature, and so that has been switched to just be a graphic on the sheet like the directors. So that's what you're going to see in the next L&D update. It's basically going to say that engineers and surveyor seals should be digital signatures. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're actually going to take the guidelines for electronic design deliverables document and actually put it into the L&D Vol.3. So it'll be a new section 1600. So those are the kind of two main changes that are happening here in the next couple of months that we wanted to call out. So with that, we'll move on into kind of a recap or a summary of the process here, and then at the end we'll get to some common misconceptions. So I will let Adam take over here.
All right. So I'm going to click the play button here. I'm going to walk through the process of the new layout of the title sheet. Okay, so as you can see here, we're going to use the create design files application here to create the title sheet file. And then from here, we're going to go to the OHDOT sheet cells application here, as you can see. And once that's open, we're going to go down here to the generic sheets drop down here. Typically, it'll be set to all, but let's go to the generic. And then we'll go to the title sheet here. And as you can see in that preview, we do have the new interior cell within that title sheet as we can place that. So before we do that, though, we always recommend filling out this information here and then selecting the 00. And then from there, we're going to data select within the sheet view here and then place that title sheet. And then we'll reset. And then it'll go through the process of adding that logo and everything to the title sheet. So once that's placed, I'm going to go through the process of adding the DDD signature cell, and that's going to be located underneath the OHDOT workflow. Underneath the ORD workflow. And we've also added space for 6 title sheet engineering seals here, and then another additional 2 here on the left. As you can see here, we're going to place that DDD signature. Got ahead of myself there. Sorry about that. So now we're going to navigate to that location of the cells, which is going to be underneath the drawing workflow. And then we'll go to the cells application here, and then we'll select the DDD signature, which is going to be located underneath the OHDOT sheet cells library. And then we're going to go down here to the bottom, and then we're going to select one of the signatures, which is going to be a cell. We're going to set that as the active cell, and then we're going to data select to the end of the line of the signature line here. And then we're going to place that cell. And I'm going to go over the signature sheet here. So this sheet is going to be use the naming convention of the PID and then GU and then the number of what sheet that's going to be. And then we also going to have this as a 8.5 by 11 size sheet, and it's going to be separate numbering from the overall plan set as well. So for instance, you're just going to have one of one or one of two, right? Depending on how many of these you're going to need for your project. And these don't actually have to be digital signatures. So we're not really going to regulate how that's going to be placed. So you can use the sheet cells application here. I mean, the plan signature application here shown on the screen to place those, or you can also handwrite those, or you can print it out and do all that stuff. And if this project does require this, you're going to use a call out on the actual title sheet as C signature sheet, and you would just say see that. And let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to pass this back off to JD.
All right, so get this PowerPoint started again here. So I wanted to go over this application that we created to help with the process of digital signatures. So let me go ahead and put this up on YouTube and get full screen going here. Okay, so I'm in the title sheet file, and let's bump up the quality here. I'm in my title sheet file, and I'm going to open up this app that we created and kind of go over quickly how to use it. I'm going to jump through this video a little bit, so you guys can always go back and watch this video, go through like all the details of everything, which in our presentation, we just have to skip through some stuff. So you can see I'm up here in the ribbon. I'm just going to open this plain signatures that you saw on the previous slide. So there's two different tabs. There's one for placing seals and one for placing signatures. So the signatures tab would be for what that slide you just saw on that signature sheet, and then the seals tab would be for placing any of your engineering surveyor or landscape seals. So it's pretty easy to use. And what it's going to do is it's going to place that block that you're used to seeing, but it's also going to create or kind of update a cell to represent the actual seal. So let's jump forward a little bit. So as we start filling this out, you can fill out the title. So if you want to call out what section of the plan you are signing, there's also a subtitle. So if you want to call out a certain bridge or something, there's those two lines. You can leave it blank if you're going to sign off on like the whole plan. You don't need to have a title specified. Then you're just going to put in your name, your license number, and we'll go over the scale by later on. You're typically going to leave that at 1. I'll show why that's there. And then there's two different placement options just to help place if you're going to place on the left side or the right side. So that's all that does. There's a save current values button that'll save your current values in this tab. So if you're gonna come back and place these time and time again, you don't have to fill out your name and number every time. You can have it save it. And then I do want to just, when you hit the save button, it should tell you down the bottom that it saved it. So calling that out. And another thing I wanted to call out was that when you place a seal, it's actually going to update a design script file. So right now I'm over in my project, and you see there's not a design script file there just yet. So after I place this, you're going to see it's going to generate that design script file and actually update it. So the reason that's doing that is that design script is what's actually going to create digital signature fields during the printing process, right? And the way we're doing that is there's this little block or square rectangle at the bottom, and you see the cell name is this GUID. So that GUID is getting put into that design script file. And then when you go to print, it's going to know, okay, I found this rectangle, and it's named what I'm looking for. I'm going to turn that into a digital signature field, so I can just click on it and sign it in the PDF. So that's what this app is doing. As you're placing it, it's just kind of filling that out. So now you see that design script file is there. And then if we take a quick look at it, you'll see there's some stuff in there. You just go down to the bottom. We'll see that GUID got added there. All right, so you don't really need to worry so much about the design script file. I just wanted to call it out, so you gotta know what a little bit what it's doing behind the scenes as you're placing these seals. So let's jump back over here, and we should be going over the architect seal. Oh, one quick comment I'm in here is if you go to move this around, make sure you grab all the pieces because they're not all one cell. As you notice, I select that rectangle. It's separate. So if you're gonna move it, make sure you get everything because if you leave this rectangle behind, that's where the red X is gonna be. So it's probably not gonna end up where you want it if it's not moved with the rest of it. The landscape architect seal is pretty much exactly the same. Just places the architect seal instead. As you can see, their seal is slightly bigger, so I wouldn't recommend using the subtitle line because it's going to run over their seal. So now I want to quickly go over some surveyor seal stuff. So I'm in just a file that you can just consider this to be like a right-of-way plat sheet. All right, so what you're gonna notice is at the top, instead of calling out what section of the plan you're gonna sign, it's actually asking for the company name. There's 2 lines for that, mainly because you're still gonna have that signature block that you've always had when you're the surveyor is signing. So that's what's gonna really say what you're signing on. So I pulled over the right-of-way manual on the sample plans to kind of show what it used to be. So there's that signature block, and then you had this little section down here, and then your seal off to the side. And so what we decided to do was basically take this block and the seal and just make it conform with the rest of the plan. So anytime you see a seal, it's going to be that same block that we just showed from the title sheet side. So that's like the big change from the past here when you're signing as a surveyor. Is now we just moved all that data into the actual seal block. So let's populate this out, and then we can go and place it. And so, this seal would then go with one of those paragraphs. Okay. You zoom in and you'll see that there's still that rectangle getting created, and every time you place it, it's generating a new GUID. So each one of those are unique, I guess, cells that are being placed, which is needed for the design script to work. You can't reuse that identifier, that GUID. So you can't just like copy this after you place it. It's not going to work like that. So the other thing I wanted to call out with the right-of-way side, or I guess the surveyor side, is if you're going to have to, like, say, maybe hand sign this for like the right-of-way plat sheet, you're gonna want to, I guess, make sure that depending on the county requirements, some of them are really strict, and they're make sure it's the exact right size. So the thing to remember here is that all of our sheet cells are set up with full size, so 22 by 34. All right, if you're printing that down to quarter size, the 11 by 17, you're technically taking that sheet and halving the size of it, right? So that box is going to get halved, which would be too small to meet the physical dimensions that are laid out on the say board of the size. All right, so that only happens if you're going to print out a reduced size page, right? If you're going to print out the full size page, what it's placing is going to be the right size. Hopefully that's clear to everyone. So that's why I added the scale by, right? So you could take that 1 and change it to a 2, and then when you place it, it'll be double the size, so that when you are to print it out in a reduced size, at least that block right there will be the size that it needs to be. Okay, so that's the real reason why that scale by is there. So you see it kind of placed at double the size. So after you place it, if you're going to be hand signing it, you really don't need that seal there, right? So you can just click on that and delete it, so you can actually hand stamp it. And then make sure you also delete that little rectangle out, so that that doesn't turn into that digital signature box in the PDF, since you won't need that. So you can still use this app to help place that data. And then when you print it out, just make sure before you print it out, you get rid of those two cells right there. So that's really a quick overview of this app. Hopefully it's pretty simple. The last thing is, if you're going to do the signature sheet, so it's not really a seal. So I think Adam already mentioned that you don't have to have these as digital signatures. So this process you can use, and it would set up for digital signatures, but that's not like a requirement on this sheet. All right, so I'll just jump forward. I gave you 2 lines. You can put in like a name and maybe a title of, maybe what company they work for, and then you can place it, and it'll look like that. And then there'll also be a rectangle there for turning that in digital signature field, so that will get added to the design script just like your seals are. But again, that's not necessarily a requirement for this sheet, but there's an option for you if you want to follow that workflow, or if you want these to be digital signatures. All right, so with that, I'll kind of jump through this video here, and I'll jump back to the PowerPoint. The only thing I want to mention was, if you open this app and you get a warning, there is this video here on our wiki page. For time's sake, we're not going to play it, but it's basically going to say that you need to define this variable for this app to create or update that design script file. So any newer project has this defined in the workset config, but any older would need to add it to it. So this is a little warning, and this video will show you how to do it. All right, so with that, jump back over to Adam.
Right, you guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to briefly go over and kind of summarize what JD already went over in the video a little bit more. So overall, we're just going to remove the sheet numbering off of the right-of-way sheets. As you can see in that image there, we used to have the overall numbering down there on the bottom. Well, we've removed that now. And then now we're going to add in the prefix to the right-of-way subset here, as you can see, is the RW.01. And we don't want that also on the total. It's just going to be the total, as you can see. And then we are still wanting you to specify that there is right-of-way being done for this project on the title sheet. So you can call it out as C right-of-way sheets, or however you want to do that, as long as it's on the title sheet and being shown on there, so everybody knows that there is right-of-way for that project. And placing seals on the legend sheet via the signature app. So we're always going to want to use that from now on, so that everything is going to be using a digital signature except for the centerline plat, right? And then the right-of-way centerline plats, they're still going to be signed accordance to the county requirements. So let's go to the next slide. So as you can see here in this image down at the bottom left, we still have that paragraph for the certification being called out on the centerline plats, or the legend sheet, sorry. And it's still going to be sealed, as you can see there in the image there. And in the plan signature application, we're going to put the company name right here, as you can see on the screen. And the centerline plat's going to be hand signed. So if you look at this GIF here, it's kind of just showing you really quick here how to delete those out of there. And as JD said, you just need to scale that up by 2 if you're going to be hand signing those, which most of the time you're going to be. So see the next slide. And we're going to hand this back to JD to go over this slide here.
All right. So for printing, the one thing I wanted to just call out is this screenshot where it shows that X. That's what the whole app that I just showed is setting up for, right? So if when you're printing, you don't have the design script set, you're not going to get the digital signature fields, right? So make sure that when you're placing it, the signatures, you're using that app. That way, when you print, you actually get these. Now, if you don't use the app, it's not like you have to use the app, right? There are ways to place these digital signature fields just using a PDF editor software, right? So I took a couple screenshots here from Adobe and Bluebeam, but we're giving you a workflow of one way that you could set up for digital signatures, but if you'd rather place them manually, like it's still the same at the end of the day, right? A digital signature is digital signature. The last note here is that V8i printing, while it does support design scripts, it does not support creating digital signature fields. So that was something that was added in Connect Edition. So if you're still in GeoPack, the app will create the design script file. It'll update just like it does in Connect, but when you go to print, even if you include that design script, you're not going to see the signature fields because that functionality just doesn't exist in V8i. So that's, again, I go back to the bullet point above. You can easily just go in and draw a box real quick and get your digital signature field for signing. So with that, a quick video just to show that because I think showing things help. If you go to print and you get this kind of message, you want to watch this video, which I'm not going to show for time's sake. That'll show kind of what is causing this problem and how to fix it. So it's a pretty clear video if you're running into this problem. Again, I'm going to go jump over to YouTube. Try this. So real quick, I'm going to jump through this as well. You can always see all these videos on our wiki page. But just kind of wanted to go through the printing so you actually see it in action here. So we already kind of went over the seals and how they have those cells. So I'm going to go, I'm going to update, I'm going to open up a preset print organizer. I'm going to go open up the template that's gets placed in there when you create a new project. And then I'm going to add in this title sheet file. Right. And so we do have a default print style already defined. So even if you don't fill out the print style, it'll grab the default. And in that default, it should be set up to set that design script for you, right? So if we jump forward a little bit, there in the properties of that sheet that it found, you can see that that file name was listed for the design script, right? So that's just the file name, right? So remember when I was going over the application and I said, if you get an error message when you open the app, watch this video. So what that video is showing is how to define the design script location variable. So if you only put a file name, it's going to find this design script by looking at that config variable. It says, okay, you defined this location, which is different per work set. And then I'm going to go look at that location, and this file name is what I'll be looking for. If I find it, then I found my design script. So if that's not working, you can always just hit the little three dots and go and select the design script, and it'll put in the whole path there as well. So I just wanted to call that out. It's not too bad, but they're printed and opened, and you can see I got digital signature fields right here. So I click on those and sign them, which we'll go over next. And the rest of this video, is a little bit more of the behind the scenes with the design script and how it's working, which you already went over. So just to save us some time, I'm going to skip over it here, but it's going back in the design script file and kind of showing you the back end of how it's working, right? So we will jump. So there's that variable I was talking about. So this video will go over how it's finding the design script, which I just briefly mentioned. So again, if you have more questions, I strongly recommend you go watch this video in its entirety, as it will lay out all that information there. So there's where you can just go to the full path if you needed to. All right, so with that just shows that it does work. You can print. That's what you should see when you actually print. So I think Adam has the rest of the presentation.
Sure do. Let me reshare my screen real quick here. So let's go to the signing digitally here. So as you can see here, in the image to the right here, we're using Adobe Acrobat Reader here to sign the signature field. So that's one of the softwares that we're recommending users to use is the Adobe Acrobat Reader. And then Bluebeam Review is also another one that we are suggesting that you can use too. So first you're going to want to create a signature appearance. As you can see here, to the bottom of this dialog here, we do have the digital signature appearance. And I'm going to go over this a little bit later in the video or in the slides, but that's just the gist of what the appearance should look like when you're creating your appearance. Second, you're going to select the signature field and then you're going to place that appearance. So that's what this dialog is being shown here, is actually the dialog for when you select that signature field, and it should activate that dialog so you could select your digital ID and your appearance. And then once you've done that and you click OK, it's going to activate the save the file, and then you can reopen it, and then it should show that you've signed that document. So the next slide. So I'm going to briefly go over how to create a signature, an e-signature. So let's go ahead and click the play button here. And let's open that up in YouTube on the website. So let's go ahead and skip this. So we do actually have like a few different options that you can do. You can use the signature image application right here that we're going to be going over in this video. You can scan your signature and then place that in as a image or a PDF, or you can use a photo, which we all have the videos for all of those on our wiki page and on the YouTube website. So let's go ahead and skip through here. So as you can see here, we do actually have this application. It's actually located underneath our standards here and then under applications. And as you can see here, it's the signature image creator application here. So you'll want to click on this and load that application. And then once that's open, and you can also download that here on our wiki page as well. And then once you click on that and put that into the web browser, it should activate that download. So let's go ahead and open that. And as you can see here, we actually have the application open, and you can just sign within this view here, and you can change the thickness of the pen. You can also change it from black or blue here, and then you can just sign your signature. So let's go ahead and play that. So yeah, as you can see, I'm signing here within that dialog. And then we do recommend once you've done with your signature, you want to reduce that white space so that it clears up that for when we save the file, as you'll see here once we click save. And this application, what it's going to do is going to generate a few, 3 different files. So it's going to create a PDF, a JPEG, and an actual strokes file. And as you can see there, it did save those. And here they're the strokes file, the PDF, and the PNG. And I did want to quickly mention that the PNG is going to be the best use case scenario here, because what it does is, as you'll see here, is it reduces the white space behind the signature, so it's like a transparent background. And the software that can produce that version of the signature is going to be Adobe Acrobat Pro and then also Bluebeam Review. Adobe Reader can only use the actual PDF version of that signature. And here's the PNG version here. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. So I'm briefly going to go over some of the preferences that you're going to need for Adobe Reader. So let's go ahead and load this video, and I'm going to jump through this a little bit too. Let's go that to the website on this too. Okay, well, I guess it's not going to participate today for me on that. Okay, so I'll just go from this smaller view here. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up Adobe Acrobat, and you're going to set the different preferences here. So you're going to go to the commenting here, and you're going to want to make sure that you change that font here to Calibri. And then from there, we're going to go to the identifier here, and you're going to select or fill out all this information with your information. And then we'll go to security, and you're going to want to check on automatically trust document with valid certification here. And once you've done that, let's go to signatures, and then we're going to go to identities and trusted certificates, and we're going to click on the more button. And as you can see here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to, as an ODOT user, you're going to select your ODOT route here and select usage options. And you want to use that as signing. Now, as an external, you're going to want to go to the add ID if your route or identifier has not been set by your organization. And if it is, then it should already be set up in here, and you just do the same process what ODOT employees do. And then next we're going to go to verification, and we're going to check on, or first we're going to check off require certificate revocation checking. We're going to turn that off because we don't want that to be checking when we're signing or opening up files. Next, we're going to go to Windows integration after that, and we're going to select both of these 2 options here being shown, and then we're going to click OK. And then we're going to do the appearance for your signature. And to do this, we're going to go, first, I guess we're going to uncheck include signature revocation status. And then now we're going to create an appearance. First, you want to put your name as the title. And then we're going to go to import graphic, and then we're going to select that signature that we created in the other videos before this in the other slide, as you can see here. And then we'll open that. And then you'll notice here, we'll want to go to the configure text here, and you're only going to want to have the name and the date, logo and labels selected. And then from there, we're going to click OK. And then let's go ahead and sign a document. And then you'll get this dialog here, and you'll select your sign as here, and that'll show up with your appearance underneath this drop down here. And as you can see, this is what the signature will look like. And that pretty much covers the signature appearance under the Adobe Reader. We're not going to be going over the Bluebeam review today because of time restraints. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. So in this slide, we're going to go over the completing the plan set PDF package. So the construction plan set is broken up into 3 parts now. So as you can see here, we have city and then PID signature. If the project needs it, not all projects are going to need that, but if it does, then that's what we would want to see within that PDF package. And then we have city, PID, and then plan PDF here. And that's going to be all your construction documents. And then obviously we have our separated out right of way. So as you can see here, creating the PDF package, I'm just showing in these 2 images between the 2 softwares. So on the left, that's going to be Adobe. On the right, that's Adobe. And the only software you can use to create these is going to be Bluebeam Review and Adobe Acrobat Pro, right? So this is the Pro version, not the Reader Adobe, because that won't create those. So as you can see here, we'll go to the file and then create. And then as you can see here, we have create PDF portfolio. And then over here, the Bluebeam, sorry, and then file, create, and then PDF package. So I like to also consider these as a kind of like a zip file for PDFs with the extension of .pdf, right? So if you would open these up with either of these 2 pieces of software, it would recognize that and you get a menu of all of the PDF sets that are within that. So next slide. So I'm going to briefly go over how to create a PDF portfolio in this video. So let's go ahead and click play on this. And I'll just open this up in YouTube. Let's see if this will actually work for me this time. So as you can see here, these are the 2 versions that we want to be able to use for creating PDF packages and portfolios. So as you can see here, we're going to go to the file and then create PDF portfolio. And you'll get this dialog here. And we can add files by going up to the left-hand side there and select add files. So you're going to navigate to the files that you see here. So these are the files that we discussed earlier in that other slide. We've got plan right away, and then we've also got signatures. Now, not every project's going to require all of these files. So let's say if you have a project that only has plans, right? So you'll only have the plans PDF within that, whether it's 1,000 pages or just 1 page. Either way, it needs a PDF package or portfolio. And also, like I said earlier, we want to call that out on the title sheet that it has these 2 files in here, the signatures and the right of way. And I also did want to quickly go over if your project has multiple parts, it's still only going to require only 1 PDF package for that project. So it's based off of PID number, right? So if that project has the same PID number and it has multiple parts, you're going to want to call it _ part, right? So, and then have however many numbers there are for that project. As you can see here, I have a quick little example of what that would look like. So let's go ahead now and we're going to add those back into the PDF portfolio, and we'll get a nice little preview of what those would look like, as you can see here. And the nice thing about that is if you don't want to create that straight away, you can zoom in and out of here. As you can see, I'll show that here. Let's see if we can get that a little bit quicker. There we go. You have a little magnifying glass there. You can click on that and open it, and then you can preview if there's signatures within that. And then you can also use that little scroll bar there with the little mountain peaks there, and you can zoom in and out there and see how much extra space we have there for the files. And then what we did there is we click create, and then it's going to give you a display of all the files being placed within that PDF portfolio, and it's going to open those. And as you can see here, we do have the files in there. We can look through each one of those that are within that PDF portfolio, and it also show the different signature validity up here up on the screen here, and we can take a look at those. And then once we did that, we can save this PDF portfolio by going to File and then Save PDF Portfolio. And I'm going to skip this part because this is an internal process. Okay, so now let's go back to the slides here. Verifying. So the verifying and submitting to central office, you want to make sure that all the signatures are valid. As you can see here, we do have some images. And really what it comes down to is we don't want to have documents coming in to the districts or to central office that have this comment here. As you can see, there have been subsequent changes to the document. Now this is where it becomes a problem because we don't want that comment. And as you can see here, if that is there, we will get an I and a check mark versus if there isn't any subsequent changes, it says it's not been modified, right? So then this is what we would want to see being submitted. Now, if you have any more questions on any of this process of the PDF package or the initial or the addendum, you'll go to the project submission procedure here, which is also a link. So if when we send this out, you can click on this and take a look at that document. But we also have those on our OHDOT website, and we also have them on the wiki page. So some of the common mistakes that we get a lot of are the final plan set, right? It always comes down to the naming. Like, how do we name these? What's the naming convention for these? So before we had the right of way, the construction documents, and all the documents were all in one PDF, right? So where we see this becoming a problem is if the document needs to be signed, right? So we have the right of way that needs to be digitally signed, and we also have the construction documents that need to be signed on the title sheet, right? So if we were to have everybody sign that one document and there was changes along the lines of one of those signatures being placed, it breaks the whole document, right? So everybody has to re-sign it. So that's really the reason why we've separated these out. So as you can see here, we do have the naming convention for this plan set being submitted to the district is going to be year, month, day, and then the PID, and then plan set, right? So this is going to be the initial name for that document. This is going to house your plan, your right of way, and your signatures, and also the parts as you see here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
go back to just to clarify what we've seen is people confusing the plan set. They for some reason they're thinking that this plan set is not the PDF package and portfolio, but just the plan PDF inside of it, where that plan PDF is just a part of the plan set. So I just wanted to clarify that PDF package is your plan set, which contains all of the sheets that make up that plan set, right? That's why it's the plan set. But I've just noticed that confusion the past couple of months. So I wanted to clarify that. Continue.
Okay. So some more common mistakes that we've been seeing are we don't want the clouded or the markup sheets being placed within the PDF portfolio, right? So these are going to be separately named. They're going to be outside of that, and it's going to have that PDF is going to house all of the clouded and the markups, right? So we definitely don't want those being placed within that PDF portfolio, okay? And then all projects filed will only ever have one PDF package or portfolio. And then multi-projects, as I stated earlier, you're just going to have the underscore part number, and that'll be the end of at the end of the naming convention, as you see here in the red, right? All right, so some of the resources for the wiki page. As you can see here, we do have the project submission overview. So this is going to be your one-stop shop for all the documents and the different submission via the project-wise, right, and internal process only. I do want to mention that being shown there is an internal process, but that houses all the documents for that. And then the electronic deliverables is going to be housed here in the plan set. This is going to house all of the PDF portfolio and the package requirements and the naming convention for those. And then the digital signature overview. This is going to house all of our videos and our digital signature process. So I really suggest taking a look at our wiki page because this is a one-stop shop for all of our information when it comes to that process for filing and just the naming convention and how to do things. So I'm going to open this up for questions. I'm sure we have plenty of those.
Yeah, so you guys can unmute yourselves and ask any questions. I'm currently typing an answer into the chat about can you save PDF package or create them directly within ProjectWise. And so that really just comes down to the software you're using, right? So if your software is integrated ProjectWise, because when you create a PDF package, it's essentially a save as, right? So if you can save as and navigate ProjectWise, then yes. So Bluebeam has that ProjectWise integration, but Adobe does not. So if you're using like Adobe Pro to create a PDF package, it wouldn't be able to reach inside ProjectWise. You just have to drag it in after it's created. Um, and the Kyle just chatted off to the side was there's also a ProjectWise Drive too. So if you're using ProjectWise Drive, then you would have no problems because it's basically the same as working in as a network drive. So that's another option as well.
Seems like we did pretty good for time.
Frank asked a question about how will compensation be handled. That's gonna have to be a conversation outside this meeting or presentation. But ultimately, it's something that should have always been being done, right? If changes being made, the engineer or surveyor should be made aware of that because they are the owner of the document since they signed it, and they would need to sign off on those changes. And that's really what the board requirements is really why we're doing this whole thing is so that if changes are happening, that the person who signed it is aware of those changes.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly go over where the location of the digital signature stuff is. It's actually, if you go to the wiki page, it's under the training resources, and then it's under electronic design deliverables, digital signatures, and process. So I'm going to post this in the chat as well.
Yep, so another question came in. I think the gist of it is there a better way to handle having to re-sign even if a small change is made. And right now, we don't have a way to do that. Basically, any change, small or large, is going to invalidate that signature. So we don't have a workflow for that. I know there's ongoing discussions about that, how to handle smaller changes. Right now, it's just limited to the way the software works, right? Our ability to verify the document hasn't been changed just through the digital signature of the PDF. So even if it is a small change, we can't just say, oh, that doesn't count. And then how do you clarify or determine what's a small, what's a big change. So that has been brought up several times. So I hear you, but in trying to conform with the board's requirements, this is where we're at right now, unfortunately. So hopefully in the future we can maybe have a way around that or a better workflow. And then I will take this recording and post it on our wiki page as well. It'll be over in our webinar section, and I'll post the PowerPoint there as well. Yep. So this is 3 o'clock on the dot here. So if you guys have more questions, you can reach out to us with the support request form. Hopefully, most of this wasn't new news to you, as it was implemented back in January. We want to do this as more of an update to call out that DDD change, but then also recap the process as well. So thanks for attending, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.